The Long Island housing market is heading into summer, and the data for May is telling a pretty clear story. More homes hit the market, more homes went under contract, and prices kept moving up. But the bigger question right now isn't just what the numbers say, it's what's about to happen to the way homes get sold in New York, and whether one man's aggressive strategy may have accidentally triggered the end of a practice that he was trying to push. We're going to break down the main numbers for Suffolk and Nassau. We're going to talk about a major project that is reshaping downtown Riverhead. And then we're going to get into the private listing situation because there are developments recently that every Long Island seller needs to hear. Let's get into it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Long Island Real Estate with me, Sal Catalano, where we break down what's actually happening in the Long Island housing market. If you're thinking about buying, selling, or just trying to understand where things are headed, you're in the right place. Also, just want to say we were off last month, which is fancy podcast way of saying that I didn't get a chance to make the podcast. So I do apologize for that, but we're back and we're better than ever, or at least we're trying to be. So we're now several months into 2026, and I do like to keep using each episode to kind of check back in on how my market predictions are going, because I did make a whole video at the beginning of the year, which I will link down below. My core prediction was steady appreciation in a supply-constrained market. No crash, no explosion, just Long Island, Long Islanding. And so far, the data keeps backing that up. So let's start over with Suffolk County. Looking at the main numbers for Suffolk, the average sale price came in at $701,250, which is essentially flat month over month, up just 0.2%. Now, before anybody reads that as a bad sign, it isn't. In the spring market, modest price movement with strong transaction volume is actually what a healthy market looks like. And the transaction volume here is notable. Sold listings were up 9.5% month over month. So more deals are closing. That means the market's moving. The sold to list ratio came in at 102.1%. So homes are still selling above asking price on average. And that number is actually up 1.5% from last month. That tells you that competition hasn't softened heading into the summer. If anything, it's gotten a little sharper. Inventory is sitting at 3.13 months supply, which is actually a little bit higher than my prediction said, but it's still well below anything that would be considered a balanced market. And here's what's worth pointing out. The 12-month change on inventory is down 13.8%. A year ago, there was more supply than there is right now. Somehow. It's certainly not what a cooling down market looks like. The days on market were 28. That's sharp. That's down 30% from April. So this is the spring market doing exactly what the spring market is supposed to do. Buyers came off the sidelines, so competition went up. Homes started moving faster because of this. So if you've been sitting on the fence about listing in Suffolk County, these right here are the conditions that you've been waiting for. Let's go take a look at Nassau. Nassau County in May is putting up strong numbers. The average sale price came in at $875,000, which is up 2.9% month over month. That's a meaningful move. The 12-month estimated value trend for Nassau is up 5.9%. So Nassau is outpacing Suffolk on appreciation right now, and the gap is actually widening. Sold listings in Nassau were up 19% month over month. That's a significant jump in activity. So the spring market is really showed up in Nassau County. The sold to list price ratio is 100.9%, so still above asking on average. You have to be ready to compete in Nassau, because inventory is at 3.06 months. Again, a little bit slighter than my early beginning of the year prediction, but way, way tighter than anything that would be considered balanced or even remotely close to a buyer's market. So just like Suffolk, the 12-month inventory trend is also going down. Days on market dropped to 30, which is down 14.3% from last month. So homes are moving fast in Nassau. If you're a buyer in Nassau in 2026, you probably already know that. One thing I do want to call out across both counties, new pending listings are surging. In Suffolk, new pending listings were up 13% month over month. In Nassau, they were up 21.4%. That's demand. That's real buyers under real contracts on real homes. That market that I said at the start of this year that was going to be steady and supply constrained, it's still that. It didn't change. All right, so here's what I actually think when I look at these numbers all put together. The spring market delivered. Both counties are showing more transactions, faster sales, and prices that are holding or ticking up. Inventory somehow is even tighter on a 12-month basis than it was a year ago. The sold to list ratio in Suffolk is 102%. That's not a market that's losing steam at all. And where I'd push back on any overly optimistic read is the inventory. Yes, more listing came on the market in May. That's seasonal and that's normal. But we're still sitting at just over a 3-month supply in both counties. And the 12-month trend on that number is going in the wrong direction if you are a buyer. My 2026 prediction was steady appreciation in a constrained market. Through 5 months of data, that's exactly what we have. So if you're thinking about selling, you're in a market where demand is real, competition is high, and serious buyers are out there. And if you're thinking about buying, the window isn't closing, but waiting for things to get easier hasn't been the right call in this market for quite some time, and the pending numbers suggest it still isn't, along with common sense. Let's talk about what's happening around Long Island. There's something genuinely exciting happening in downtown Riverhead, and it matters to anyone thinking about property values and quality life on the North Fork. The town of Riverhead broke ground on a $32.6 million town square project back in December, and this thing is a-moving. The project includes an upper and lower town square, an amphitheater, a playground, and improved pedestrian connections from Main Street down to the Peconic River waterfront. And just last month, a developer officially unveiled plans for what they're calling the Peconic River Hotel, a 94-room boutique hotel that is now in the formal town approval process. This project pulled together $10 million in state downtown revitalization initiative funding. I think I got that. A $24 million federal grant and additional contributions from the Empire State Development and other sources. This is serious money, serious planning, and it's actually happening. Drive down Main Street in Riverhead and you can see the construction going on right now. And here's why it matters for real estate. When a downtown gets this kind of sustained public investment, it changes the whole equation for buyers. Proximity to a walkable, activated downtown with a waterfront component, an event space, a hotel, and mixed-use development, that's real value. We've seen it happen in other Long Island communities that went through similar revitalization cycles. And let's be real, Riverhead is already a genuinely awesome place. You have the aquarium, it's right by wine country. The downtown area, I mean, it's kind of a mess right now with all the construction, but it was already nice. The Alive on 25, the street mosaic paintings they do, all the fairs, all that type of stuff. Gangbrow Park down there. It's a really nice spot. So if this project takes all of that and then builds around it and builds it up. So if you're looking at North Fork adjacent communities, or you're thinking about the next 5 to 10 years and what that looks like in that part of Suffolk County, you need to pay attention to this project. And by the way, I actually have the best listing in Riverhead right now, and I'll link that below as well. Okay. So there are two things that happened recently that I need to talk about together because they're connected, and one of them is very connected to a video I made a few months ago. The antitrust division of the New York Attorney General's office is now investigating Compass over its private listing practices and growing market dominance following its acquisition of Anywhere Real Estate. Compass's stock dropped 12% after that news broke. Of course. And separately, the New York State Legislature just passed a bill that would require agents to list homes on the MLS or a public website in a timely manner unless the seller has agreed in writing to keep it off market. And that bill is currently sitting on Governor Hochul's desk. So to recap, the New York Attorney General is investigating Compass, and Albany just sent a bill to Governor Hochul that would require public listings as the default. And I honestly cannot help but point out that Rob Reffkin, the CEO of Compass, brought this all on himself. He really did. Look, private listings have been around in real estate for a long time, and they serve real, legitimate purposes. You have estate sales where family doesn't want strangers walking through the house. You have divorce situations where both parties need or want discretion. And you got them high-profile sellers who, need privacy. And then you have sellers who just kind of want to quietly test the price before going on market. These are real scenarios, and a private listing is a legitimate tool for them. Nobody was investigating private listings. Nobody was writing legislation about private listings. And then Robert Reffkin decided to market private listings as a mass market strategy that would help average sellers get more money. He built an entire competitive platform around it. He spent years promoting the idea that keeping your home off the MLS was better for sellers. Except it isn't. The data consistently shows the opposite. Homes that skip the MLS sell for less, not more. Full stop. That's it. More exposure means more competition, means a better outcome for the seller. I covered all this in my Compass video, and I'll link that down below if you missed it. But here's the part that genuinely is almost funny in a painful sort of way. His campaign to normalize private listings as a seller advantage done at a massive scale turned a quiet industry practice into a public controversy. It got the attention of regulators. It got the attention of the Attorney General. It got the attention of state legislature. And now, the likely outcome if this bill passes and the AG investigation moves forward is that everyone in New York might lose access to private listings entirely. Or the process gets hit with so much regulatory overhead that it becomes practically unusable, including for the sellers who had actual legitimate reasons to use it. He didn't just hurt his competition. He may have eliminated a tool that real estate agents have used responsibly for decades to protect clients who generally need privacy. Now here's where I'll say something you might not expect from me, given that I've been pretty vocal about the Compass private listings push. I certainly don't think a blanket ban is the right answer. The problem was never that private listings exist. The problem was that they were being marketed deceptively as a way for sellers to make more money when the data says they make less. That's a disclosure problem and a marketing ethics problem. The fix for that is transparency requirements, if you ask me. Require that sellers are informed in writing that their home will reach fewer buyers, and the data shows this typically results in a lower sale price. Require them to acknowledge that in the agreement Then let them make the informed choice. And you know what's funny? Compass's listing agreements do say that. Even though they push them as this make more money situation, they then go ahead and have their sellers sign an agreement that says that. So eliminate the deception overall, make that a standard. Don't eliminate the option. A blanket ban pushes the estate executor who needed privacy, the divorce situation that couldn't handle a public listing, the legitimate use cases that never had anything to do with Rob Reffkin's big market share takeover. I have a full video coming on this specifically because the legislative picture is more complicated than any headlines giving it credit for, and Long Island sellers need to understand what's actually at stake here. So watch for that coming in the next couple weeks. All right, so zooming out to take one last look at May before, as we zoom through June. Both counties are moving faster, prices are holding, and in Nassau's case, climbing meaningfully, and demand is clearly there in the pending numbers. Inventory is still tight. Sound like a broken record on inventory month in, month out, but inventory is still tight, hasn't changed. My 2026 prediction is tracking pretty well. So if you own a home on Long Island right now and you're curious of what it's actually worth in this market, not what Zillow says, what it would actually sell for, the link to a free home value estimate is below. And if you're in buyer mode, the 2026 Long Island Buyer Guide that I created is also linked below. It'll teach you everything that you need to know in this competitive market. Other than that, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch. The weather out there is awesome. So whether you're watching this on the beach at your phone, whatever it is, I appreciate it. And I will catch you guys on the next one.